Welcome to another video, CATIA V5. I'm already within Generative Sheet Metal Design Workbench. So we are going to discuss what are the types of first walls that can be created. So I'm going to go and add the parameters. I will use the default 2 mm thickness. Now for the shapes that can be added for the first wall, we are going to talk about the wall function over here. So we're gonna need a close profile for this one. So for the first case study, I will use the profile tool within Sketch, and I will draw the following shape. I will also close it over here on the vertical axis. And now, since this profile is closed, we have the possibility to go and apply the wall, which we're gonna see that will add that 2 mm thickness. So keep in mind that for the wall function, we need to make use of closed profiles within Sketch. If we want to, we can always go back to the original Sketch and do some changes. For example, over here I will select the profile and I will mirror them regarding the vertical axis as a reference. So we're gonna make use of the mirror tool. Now, since this profile is not closed over here properly, if I will try to exit the sketch, we're gonna see that if I will have this updated, we're gonna have the following error. For wall 1, the selected profile is not correct because we have that self-intersection. So in order to deal with that, I will go back to the sketch and we just have to delete that line over here, and I have to delete that twice because it was also mirrored. And now, since we have this as a closed profile, you can also check at the top, we're gonna have tools, sketch analysis, so you can always check if the profile has any, let's say, self-intersections or some open profiles over here. But as we can see now, this has the status of closed. That means we can make use within the wall feature. The part is still red. This is because the part is not updated. So I can go over here on the update button, or I can press the hotkey Ctrl+U in order to have that updated. As we can see, we're gonna have that profile defined. Now, we can follow along with additional elements like wall on edge. So we can build on the existing wall profile with ease. I'm gonna add a flange over here and I will make this like this. I have the possibility to have this folded and unfolded. Keep in mind that for the wall profile, we don't have to use only, let's say, rectangular shapes. For example, if I will jump back over here and I will draw a circle, I have the possibility to use the circle as the, let's say, initial wall type over here. If I'm gonna press OK, now since these two parts are not connected, if I will update this, we're gonna see that there is no warning that we receive within the workbench. And we can further go along. So in this case, I will use a flange on the round profile. I will have this reversed. Let's say for the length, I will go with something larger, 25. And I can now have this fold unfold. And we see that even though we have that overlapping when the two parts are unfolded, there will be no warnings within CATIA. We can also use other profiles. For example, I will start with the ellipse over here. I will roughly draw the ellipse like this. Afterwards, with a profile, I will add some elements that I will later trim using the erase tool. So I will double click on this in order to trim all those elements faster. And this profile can be used as the initial wall. If I will go again on the wall function, now I have the possibility to go with elements such as wall on edge, and we're gonna see that that small edge will be created over there as the wall. Again, I have the possibility to go and have this fold unfold. Now, if you want to use some close profiles, we can also go over here. We have rolled walls, and we're gonna find this rolled wall feature. So if I will again create a circle, just like the second sketch, I will create it over here. I have the possibility with this close profile to go with a rolled wall, and we're gonna see that this will be different in terms that the surface will be extruded, and we're gonna have that 2 mm thickness on the profile, so it will look like a tube. And again, I have the possibility to have this folded and unfold. But if you want to use a profile that is not closed, we're going to need to use extrusion to define the first wall type. So let's take a look at this one as well. I will define a new sketch. Usually for generative sheet metal parts, we make use of profiles that are made from lines. So in this case, I can define something like this. I can go with a line that is not horizontal or vertical. And afterwards, if I will select the extrusion, you're going to see that just like default extrusion, we can define the limit 1, limit 2, which will go upwards. We can also define additional elements such as the bend extremities, but for default, since this is a video regarding first wall types, I'm not going to go into details regarding the other options. And we're going to see that for this element, which is extrusion, CATIA will give us the following warning: no union has been done. So even though those elements are not connected, also the first profile and the second and the third were not connected, we didn't have that warning. But now, since we use an extrusion, we see that CATIA will see that this is not linked to the initial profile, but that is just a warning. We can still have this folded unfolded, and we can continue to design on that. So usually for profiles that are not close, we're going to use the extrusion, and the same goes for elements that will be created using a spline. For example, I'm going to create a spline over here, and we're going to see that we can easily use this as an extrusion profile. Maybe I'm going to make this narrower, 40 millimeters with 40, and we're going to have that extruded. And even for the spline one, we're going to see the fold unfold, even though this it's a little bit trickier with the aspects regarding the manufacturing if you're going to make use of a spline. Now we also have the possibility to define in CATIA hoppers, which is over here within the rolled wall section. To define a hopper, I'm gonna go over here on the X and Y plane. I will define a rectangular profile, so I'm going to use the center rectangle for this. I will use the vertical axis as the reference for the center of the rectangle, and let's see, I'm going to make this 80 millimeters on the vertical axis and 200 millimeters on the horizontal axis. I will also add a corner for all 4 corners. So I'm going to click on corner, I'm gonna do a rectangle selection to grab all those 4 points. And now if I will press tab, I will jump at the top on sketch tools and I will add 10 millimeters for the radius. So this is the initial hopper profile. Now we need to define a secondary sketch that will be positioned either on top or underneath this existing profile. So I'm gonna go with a reference plane from X and Y. I will define a new plane at 50 millimeters offset. I will select that and create a new sketch. And over here I will go again with a rectangle. It's important that this rectangle will be aligned with the previous one in order to have that hopper created. Therefore I will create a new rectangle and I will add a 10 millimeter constraint over here, and afterwards we're gonna make this 20 millimeters shorter, so that will be 180, and over here again I'm gonna make this 60. I will add the same corner just like previously, so the same workflow, and afterwards I will exit the sketch. And now we have those two profiles that we need to join using the hopper feature over here. And as you can see, for the selection, if I will try to do some selections, I won't be able, since CATIA won't recognize those as eligible selection over here. That means I need to right click over here and I need to create a multi-section between those two. But for a hopper it's also important to define the tier line, so where those two sections will be trimmed. Therefore I will add 2 points to define that tiering line. So I'll go over here and define a new point. As you can see, if you're not finding all the features, you can type in over here directly, so C, afterwards 2 dots and afterwards point, and that will also create a point. Or you can enable the reference element. In this case, in generative sheet metal design, these are underneath reference elements, just like within the other workbenches. We're gonna find them over here. So reference elements extended, you can disable or enable that over here. So with the point feature, I will add a point on the top sketch. I will first click it once, and afterwards I can move the mouse, and we're gonna see how that point will move on that surface, and we're gonna receive also dimension. I'm gonna add this at 30 millimeters. For the bottom one, again, I'm gonna add, let's say 35. And we have those 2 points positioned on the lines, on the sketches, and we're gonna join them using the line. So we're gonna find the line definition tool. This will be point to point, and we're gonna merge and connect those two with a line segment. And now we have this fully defined for the hopper. Therefore I will reactivate the hopper feature. Have this set to surfacic hopper, so that means that CATIA will generate this using surfaces, and afterwards apply that properties, so the parameter for the sheet metal thickness. And for the selection, I will right click, create a multi-section surface, and within the multi-section surface it's important where exactly you are selecting the profile. So for example, for the top one, if I will left click over here to define the first profile, we're going to see that the closing point will be positioned over here, and we're going to have a red arrow indicating the direction. So this will be the first profile. The second profile will be this one. As we can see, they have the same orientation. If for some reason it's not oriented the same, you can click on that small arrow, and we're going to have the different orientation. if the closing point is differently, for example for sketch 10, which is the first one, if I would want to replace the closing point, it's important that they are both positioned within the same area. So for me, if I will add also the guide, the line, if I will go with preview, CATIA will be able to define that. But if for some reason the closing points are not properly defined, we can have those change as well. So I'm gonna move the closing point for the first section by selecting the sketch 10 in this case, right click, and we're gonna have the replace closing point option, and I will position the closing point over here. And now if I will hit preview again, we're gonna see that we have an update error. So the sweep operator is unable to create that because the profile leads to a cusp over here. And as we can see within the preview, we're gonna have these blue surfaces that will intersect and overlap in the middle, so the software won't be able to create that. In order to have this fixed, we just need to replace the closing point by either moving that point over here, or I can move the second point underneath this section. So I'm going to move the second point just as a case study, and I will position it over there. Keep in mind that the arrow direction is important. It's a little bit trickier to see because that arrow is also red. The outline with arrows in CATIA is also red. But you can zoom in and zoom out to better see that. And afterwards, if I will hit preview, we're gonna see that the surface can be created. Therefore, we can go with OK with the multi-section surface definition. And afterwards, we're gonna see that preview. So this will be the unfold of the hopper. We can go directly with the OK check over here, but then CATIA will process it a little bit to better see where the tier wires will be added. So using the default, or we can help the software by selecting that line over here within the tier wires, will be line 1, and now this should process quite fast. And we have that hopper profile, which we can further go and have this folded and unfolded. So keep in mind that within generative sheet metal design, it's usually a good practice to use multi-bodies, and I will create another video regarding that, how we can merge additional part bodies within the same part and have those converted into only one sheet metal part. Okay, so these are the types of the first wall that can be created within CATIA. I hope that you find this video useful. I will position a similar video over here to the left and a subscribe button to the right. So see you in the next video.